It's time. I'm back. The Incredibles is one of the most incredible Pixar movies out there, but is the video game of the same name as Incredible? Well, let's find out. But before it does happen, I actually have to show you. You see this? This is the very same game box I actually used way back in 2013 when I reviewed this game for the very first time. Yes, this is a remake, and as you can see, it's got a tear right here. And that was because the game case was thrown to me. So yeah, it's a nostalgic throwback. Let's make this review happen. And so we generally start off at level 1, the most important number when counting levels in a video game. This is the tutorial level from Mr. Incredible, and the cutscene reveals that some explosions are bound to happen, and you have to stop them, I guess. And while not a clear goal is given, I think it's fair to say that you are going to face off against this game's first antagonist for the first couple of levels. That will be in Bon Voyage, which is understandable since he has bombs as weapons. So the gameplay is one typical for a movie licensed game of its era. It is an action platformer where you will simply just be attacking enemies, jumping, collecting objects, getting items, finding unlockables. There's basically not much really unique when this game does, but it's really how the gameplay feels what really makes a game stand out in the sea of other similar games. So what exactly does this game do well? The graphics of this game are actually pretty damn good, especially for its time, and even looks good even to this day. There's a lots of nice color, and the choices are perfect for the environment. You're in a big city, so naturally there's not going to be many exaggerated colors. It's just the usual browns, whites, grays, yellow, blacks, and all of the other colors which really fit a city. Every once in a while you will be bumping into a cutscene where it shows Frozen, voiced by Samuel T. Jackson, chasing Bon Voyage across the city. Although you don't actually get to do much with him, it just shows that there's actually something's going on aside from you just traversing this level until the end. There are several aspects where this game actually differs itself from others, and that is in the way that you actually present the different mechanics. For see, at different points you have to learn how to use your manual aim, and you're doing so by picking up things and throwing them at the control box where you see right in front of you. Early on you are just throwing away basic things such as soda cans. Well, at the later part you actually got to throw henchmen, and you are doing it easily by pushing the B button, and then you are keeping the aim at the button and then pushing it again, and the villains will then open it up. So yeah, like you would expect, you use the control sticks to steer the character as well as the camera. You are also using the action buttons in order to punch. Now, you are really only using A and Y. Y throws punches and A jumps. You can combine that whenever your credit meter that you see in the middle is full. Well, that being the middle of the symbol. When it's full, you can jump up and then press the Y button to perform a super big wave, which will eliminate enemies. You also get different ratings depending on how well you are killing the enemies, so how many you kill at a time. It's pretty genius, I must say. It's really neat about how much this first level is able to show how well lived this city truly feels. The music is great, and so are the cutscenes. You can definitely tell that they wanted this to make it feel like an actual lived city instead of a bunch of rooms and platforms connecting into a single level. Just look at how well this helicopter is moving when you are being on this line, and look how well this sign is breaking apart whenever you try to actually get over to the other side of the house, ending with a minor boss fight against lots of men flying in there with bazookas, as well as enemies on the ground. Overall, a pretty great first level from Mr. Incredible. Now it's time to move on to Ellen's level, aka Elastigirl. But of course, before you actually do that, you have to watch this beautiful scene showing how many calories you've burned and how many enemies you've killed, for instance, and how long this level took to beat. Fantastic first level, let's go! So while the first level did introduce this henchman that flies about with mini helicopters, this level has them as their gimmick. So the very first part is all about you getting to understand how Elastigirl's powers work, and they are a lot more fun than Mr. Incredible. You use the trigger on the controller, the left one that is, no wait, the right one that is, in order to launch yourself on different objects, in order to swing yourself to the other side. It actually is a lot of fun to pull off, a lot more fun than Mr. Incredible's punches. So this level is all about going somewhere. Yeah, this level doesn't actually have a final goal. You simply just go through the level in order to actually learn how Elastigirl's powers work. And like I said, they're a lot more fun to pull off than Mr. Incredible's. You are using Squatch and Stretch. You can use her powers in order to hang onto lamps as well as every other object. And if you like to, you can even throw projectiles and then throw them back right at the enemy or anything else. Yes, the projectiles don't really work on anything but the enemies, which does weaken their powers slightly. However, this is a game supposed to be for everyone. It's understandable that you don't really want to cause troubles across the city. Alongside these flying enemies, there are also some hazards along the way, that being these electrical traps. They are spread out at a couple of places, and at first it may seem impossible to get across, as it's a one-hit KO if you actually do try to get onto it. However, all you need to do is to use these projectiles, that being the bombs, in order to throw them at these power stations. Do it 3 times or to see them destroyed. Although you can also use these enemies, and if they jump enough when they're being defeated, then you can easily just destroy it in 2 hits. One of the best parts of this level is the Incredimeter, like I told you about in the previous level. When it has been filled up to the max, then you can roll into enemies, attacking all and gaining even more in the Incredimeter. It's a lot of fun to pull off, and it is really satisfying, like ASMR for some people. At a few points, Bon Voyage has joins in the fight as an actual adversary, which I think he does really well. As you have to, at this very moment that I show you, actually have to swing across these gaps while avoiding his projectiles. I actually did die a couple of times and got hurt as well. It's really not that easy to avoid, so you really have to put your timing skills to the test in order to pass through this very section. Yeah, sure, he doesn't really show up very often. Hey, I even say this is the only level where the only non-boss level where he is an antagonist. And as the only antagonistic role, yeah, I can say he pulled off decently well. Yeah, sure, it's not very difficult, but of course, like I said, for a younger audience. So, at a few points in this level, you actually get the opportunity to hold on to a police helicopter in order to get to the higher levels of these buildings. This is something that you really have to do, and this is not a cutscene. You actually have to hold on with the trigger, and if you let loose when you're not up there, well, you have to basically do this over and over again. Of course, it is kind of funny to actually hear these characters speak, and it leads to absolutely nothing. So after traversing a lot of parts of this level, you are getting to the final section. Now you have to basically just attack these goons, and then you get into the electric ocean. Now I used to play this game on the PC as a kid, and I'll tell you one thing, with a mouse and keyboard it's rather tough. Now it's also tough as well. You have to basically traverse through this electric ocean by grabbing onto these light poles several times, and you have to time it perfectly. If you don't actually time it, then you will fall, and I tell you that I actually fell several times. Sure, it's not very difficult, and once I got the timing down, I was able to get over that gap. But with enemies attacking you from far behind, or with enemies attacking you with projectiles, it does take longer than it may seem, and it can be a bit more difficult if you're actually not prepared for it. But after many tries, I was eventually able to beat this level. On to the next. Okay, now let's talk about the aspects of the music, which really needs to be done. Because if the soundtrack of a game of this caliber doesn't deliver, then it is going to be a big disappointment. And on this level, it is finally time for the very first boss fight against Bon Voyage. But before that boss fight happens, you have to get through a big section with street lights trying to navigate with Buddy Pine when you hang on to escape. And it is very high octane, thanks partially to the music. It's very high octane and very action packed. Without it, this scene would lose a lot of weight. It freaking slaps, as Shafrilla Productions would say. I haven't really talked about it much, but I think it's about time that I talked about something which you can pick up on every level. And that is these very special pickups with Dash Unlock's bonus feature in the extras. On this level, they're particularly hard to get as you have to act quickly. And if you're playing this level for the very first time, you won't actually realize before it's too late that there are collectibles along the way. But with quick reflexes and a few re-attempts, you will finally be able to get all of them. However, since this is supposed to be a review, I didn't actually get all of them. I got a few, although I know that you can get all of them. Then we're getting to the boss fight itself, when Mr. Incredible finally decides to let go. And this boss fight is not very hard. For advanced players it is real easy. Sure, for the first time player way back when. Yeah, it's kinda difficult. You have to basically just avoid a series of projectiles towards you. And then you have to throw bombs right back at him. In order to gain access to pickups, you have to break everything in this level. And you are easily just punching them, and then you can pick up health. Now, this is a bit of a strange health system. No, not you collecting, but it's more or less just how the health is filled up. For you see, yellow are supposed to be the ones that fills up the least amount. Green are supposed to fill up the half most amount, and red are supposed to fill up the most amount of health. However, green and yellow are switched to the point where a bit more than green. And it's strange that green and yellow are the two that appears the least, with yellow naturally appearing a bit more than green. I don't know if this actually means anything, but hell, it even says so in the instruction manual. So was there like a mistake, or was this intentional all along? Well, it's never explained anywhere. And quite honestly, do you even care? Because in the grand scheme of things, you need health to stay alive, and thankfully there's plenty of lives to be given throughout this level and the entire game. So, after Bon Voyage being defeated, Mr. Incredible stands proudly on top of this building, although now comes the part of this movie which really advances the story forward. Supers are sued, and does mean that they pay a lot of money, and some supers on the run, super villain stops as well. Now 15 years passes by, and they are living regular lives, having regular jobs, and if we know anything, it's the fact that it sucks, although we don't actually see it in game. We basically cut it 15 years later, when it is time for Mr. Incredible and his buddy to go through a burning building to save people. Also, there have been a few vigilantes spotted every once in a while for quite some time. Although since they haven't really made any big news, the papers aren't really researching much about it. They're simply delivering something which people have seen at some point already. So now it is time for the 4th level of this game, where you are going to save a bunch of people from a burning building. And this is the most annoying level up to this point, because there are arsonists in the entire building just putting fire on the entire place. But why though? They already have caught fire on this entire place. Why not just leave? I mean, it's not as if they actually contribute a lot more to the burning itself. Of course, they aren't really that difficult to avoid. They're just pretty annoying if you try to attack them head on. Yeah, if I'm going to be completely honest, this level actually took me the shortest to actually capture footage for. I don't know why, but I think I simply just got lucky. I went through this level for like 6 minutes. But just because it is a shortly recorded level, that doesn't mean that I got nothing to say about it. And there are plenty of things which I have to compliment this level for. Particularly the environment and the atmosphere. It really does feel high stakes for this early on in the game, as well as in this movie at this point. You can grab a lot of furniture and throw them around. So when at some point you arrive at a bridge, which you will have to actually tip to actually get around, and you're doing so by stepping to the other side, and then it's going to tip in the opposite direction of where you came from. This is actually is important, as that is how you get the collectibles in this level. And then you have to tip the scale around so that you can climb onto these lamps and get over to the next floor. Yeah, sure, it still is a pretty forward level with a lot of timing puzzles, as you have to jump onto these lamps as well, swing yourself across and then grab onto the other. There are several points in other playthroughs where people has failed to grab on, but that's mostly got to do with how the game is programmed. Although of course it's not really that difficult, and a few well-timed pushes or buttons, it makes you able to actually jump across. But of course Frozone is useless in this section, and how was even able to teleport all the way to these different sections? It makes absolutely no sense. He has no burning injuries, he doesn't sound like he's in danger. Overall, Bob has to do the heavy lifting, and he doesn't even help anyone. He simply has to traverse through this burning building on his own without any help from anyone. Why is that the case that no one actually does help him? Oh yeah! Eventually this level is beaten, and it is finally time to move on to the last level of this recording session. Yes, I am not playing through the entire game because that would take way too much time for the way I review games. So it is the very first level where you're not playing as one of the Incredibles, as you are playing as one of the Incredikids. That one being Dash, and you have to rush to school before time runs out. So this is one or two Dash levels, and you have to, like I said, rush to school. So this is an on the rails level basically. You cannot back down. You have to always be on the move, and you are doing so by running as fast as possible. So the base speed is always 123 kilometers per hour. And why exactly are you running to school and not taking the bus? Because you missed the bus, and Mrs. Incredible won't drive Dash to school for some reason. Yeah, it's never explained why. So this level is noteworthy for being one of the most dangerous towns in the morning out of any Pixar movie town or city I've ever seen. You want to know why? Because there's just so much activity happening like 8 o'clock in the morning, especially the cars, which are just driving right in front of you whenever you approach them. Hell, even when you see the bus at the crossroad, you aren't actually going to that very crossroad and try to catch up with the bus. Yeah, there are no bus stops, so I guess it's just about time for him to detour. However, it does make sense. Dash doesn't actually like being in school very much, and I bet that he simply only goes to school because he's forced to. So, like I said, this is a pretty lively city in the morning, and thankfully the game developers really followed that, so they decided to make several sections where you're supposed to use your speed in order to get onto the next sections. And one of those solutions are that you jump across a train whenever it's approaching. It actually feels very satisfactory to actually pull it off, and then some more. And after that you get a checkpoint. There are 5 checkpoints scattered across the level, and you get one around every 19 or 20%, which is about fair. But of course, with all of these things going about, this level isn't as easy as you may think. I failed several times before I actually was able to get to school. But of course, let's push the school to later, as it is finally time to talk about the one section where you will have to jump across a huge building work going on, where you have to use your speed boost and then to get across to the other tracks, and then you have to actually slow down in order to get across this particular traffic. The only traffic section in the entire level where a lot of cars are coming at the same time. I failed at this several times before I actually get onto the next section. You know, for being a city with practically no villainy, there are still a lot of problems to cross, especially with the police chase in the morning. There are also a lot of sections where the builder has just begun digging down in the concrete but not actually finishing it. I do not know what it actually means or what they actually are doing with it. It just looks pretty strange to me, or it's really strange to think about. Hell, there are even a few sections where if you actually step down in one of these, then you will not actually die or be hurt or anything. However, you will lose precious seconds, and if the clock reaches 8, well, you're not actually making it. Nah, I'm just kidding. You would simply restart at the closest checkpoints with another minute added to the clock. But now we're going to talk about the most interesting section of them all, and that is the moving trucks. Yeah, at some point you will have to traverse through a bunch of moving trucks, which can be difficult as they really throw up boxes. But that makes me really wonder if the people that are driving these trucks even care about their job. Shouldn't they realize that they simply just forgot to close the hatch? A lot of moving boxes are falling out. Of course, it's really only a couple of them, and there doesn't really seem to be any emptying of the carriage itself. However, that's expected for a game of its time, although I do remember it being a way longer and a bit more difficult. But who knows, maybe that was the childlike wonder of playing this game way back when. So after several attempts, I was able to beat this level and got to school in time, and I got a lot of calories burned. So yeah, that is going to conclude the footage of this level. Yeah, I didn't really go through the entire game because, like I said, I want to go through a few portions of each and every game that I review, and not to the point where I can actually talk about it. And so there's just one problem which I will have to say about this level. Where the heck is Dash's backpack? Why didn't he bring it with him? Yo, you have to actually go back home, sir, and actually go get it. For Pete's sake, please, man, be respectful. Thank you so much for watching this video. The views on this channel has begun to grow exponentially, and I'm oh so grateful for that. If you like to see more of me and my videos, then consider subscribing and leaving a like. And right now on the screen you will see links to the previous videos I've done. Thank you so much once again for watching, and see you later!